Welcome to my open studio live stream. We're sticking with this theme of abstract mixed media today. I have yesterday's ideas um, have led me to grow a little bit curious and want to explore some of the haphazardly created shapes and marks here a little bit further. So in yesterday's open studio live stream, we created this piece with a mix of um, line work with some ballpoint pen, which is under all of this, and then a little bit of acrylic marker and then acrylic paint. We did some print making with this little slice of pine. So we're gonna explore the interplay of those stamped printed circles and some of the line work, and we're going to build to that. That's the idea. I actually have a general direction because of this and the fact that one thing leads to another sometimes. So um, there's a lot of interesting things going on there. There's some printed patterns from a quilted paper towel, and we're gonna use that. We're gonna incorporate that too. So we'll get to it. And I'm also excited because I have some ideas for um, more representational paintings, which is what I'm more generally more into. So found some reference photos from a trip up we took up to Whistler a few years back, and yeah, found a nice photo that I'm actually going to do an initial sketch. Um, this is not it. This is an old plein air sketch that I did, but on the back, I'm gonna use the same board that I used for this plein air. Um, we're going to build up a couple layers of gesso and sand it, and I'll do an initial sketch of my Whistler painting on the back of that one. So looking forward to that. Hopefully we'll be able to start that within the next few days. But and I may do so right on the live feed, on the live stream, open studio live stream, especially because the weather is going to be a little rough over the next couple of days. All right, so let's get started here. I'm going to do the same thing I did yesterday. I started with some lines with my multicolor ballpoint pen, and I started with like a radiating line pattern. What I might do today is just some random diagonal lines like I might do for um, my abstract shading exercise that I've shown on the channel, where we usually do it in black and white, but we could do it in color as well. We'll shade in, we'll create a kind of a dynamic abstract set of shapes on a page with angular lines like this, and then shade in. So we kind of juxtaposed a value transition from light to dark within each of the shapes next to each other, and it creates an interesting effect. We're not going to do that today. We're actually going to do something similar though. We're going to do radiating lines from each of those points, and maybe we'll do it from opposite ends. And these do not need to be perfect. This is going to get almost completely covered. If that noise is my dog snoring in the background, just so you know. All right. I don't think she slept well last night. First night we slept with the windows open in a while. Probably on high alert. So I know none of this makes sense. It's fine. It's not intended to. It's just, again, a reaction to yesterday's work, one thing leading to another. So we have those lines. I think I'm going to jump right into printing this little pattern here. I'm going to take a little bit of a different approach. Yesterday I rolled it. I basically wrapped the paper towel around the container for my burnt willow vine charcoal. I'll take a little bit of a different approach today. I'm going to tear some of these pieces off. And we'll see. We'll basically just use these to get a thin coating of acrylic paint or maybe watercolor, and we'll stamp it on there. We'll see. But before I do that, some splatters, some watercolor splatters. All right. Yeah, I think that makes sense to put that layer down next. And we're going to stay with I'm going to stay with warmer colors. So I will go with oh boy. Our little dog is snoring like crazy. All right. So this means we'll have to get the hair dryer out. Okay. Do that right now. So it's just a little orange and magenta over some orange lines. All right, now we're going to use these little these little strips of quilted paper towel, and hopefully some of this pattern, nice little, I don't know if you could see that, this little quilted pattern transitions with any amount of luck, or if we get this right, that'll happen. I'm going to use a little bit of a darker purple for this. little sponge brush. Ollie, let's let her be. Go ahead and get pattern on there, and let's see if that transfers. Nice. Okay, cool. Maybe that a few times with this color and this shape, and then we'll go to another one. I don't want to press too hard because we don't want to collapse that pattern too much. All right. I'm going to set this aside. And we're going to get there we go. A slightly different color, but I need to wash out my brush. I'll be right back. Be right back, just washing out my brush. All right. Just so there's not a lot of mixing going on, I'm gonna go ahead and blow dry that. And before I do, I don't know if I mentioned this, but this is Open Studio live stream. Not a lot of explanation, just inviting you in to kind of join me while I create. Sometimes I'll do pieces like this. Sometimes I'll be, focused on more maybe conventional, at least conventional to the channel here, representational work. A landscape painting that looks like the landscape that I'm that I'm focused on as reference, or maybe even out in the field painting on plein air. But lately, I've been going down this path of abstract stream of conscious, and find it enjoyable. I can do it in studio, large or small format. And anyway, not a lot of explanation. Invite you in to come see my process if you're interested in that sort of thing. And I'm gonna go ahead and dry this with a hair dryer. right. My paper towel that I intended to use got a little wet, so I'm going to go ahead and switch gears, and I'm going to go to Old Reliable, my burnt willow vine charcoal, and just play a little bit. Let's see, maybe some random marks here or there, and I may or may not incorporate a little bit of water. All right, I think from here, I'm going to go ahead and start. Maybe I'll incorporate a little bit of water on that charcoal. Kind of haphazardly diffuse some of those lines. I have a little fan brush. There's some water. It's got a little tint of magenta and orange in there, which is already laid down on the paper. And I'm not going to overly saturate it, but I'm just going to come across some of these lines and kind of drag the brush over. Just diffuse it a little bit. Make it look a little less rendered and handmade. Okay. Pretty subtle. You might not be able to see that, but all right, I'm going to blow dry that, and then we're going to come in with some acrylic markers, and then we're going to start stamping our little circular shapes. That's the game plan. We might do a few layers of those circle stamps with more of these. We'll see. All right, so let's see, what color do I want to use for this? I have a little bit of a warm white. Yesterday I used kind of a titanium white for this. Today I'm going to use a warm white. And I should get a piece of scrap paper to use for this. Yeah, let's see what happens. Yeah, not really noticeable. That's okay. When we dry that out, when we dry that off and we start layering this, they'll be more noticeable. Okay, so I'm gonna get a little bit of this paint on a piece of shop cloth, and I'll just stamp from there. This will be like my stamp pad, if you will. Oops. Okay. That's that for now. Now to get my hair dryer. Dry that. Nice and dry. We'll come through with our charcoal once again. Some heavier lines this time. What I feel like might work well with this is the use of this copper color. All right, now we're going to come through and use this warm white my paper towel. Let's see what happens here. Yeah, I'll continue to use that. Not particularly enamored with those marks, but that's okay. Still evolving this. All right, I'll set that aside. I might come back to this color and add a few layers of that sort of thing. Let's see. While the paint's even wet, I'm going to go ahead and do a little bit more, a few more marks with the charcoal. And if I drag through some wet paint, that's not the end of the world. Chaos. All right. All right. I think we will. Yeah, we got to get a little bit of a darker color in there, that's for sure. So I think I'll go with that purple again. Gonna wash out my brush. Be right back. My watercolor so I can move these out of the way. I have an idea. Gonna get a thin layer of paint on the paper towel here. And we'll stamp this. Haphazardly. There we go. All right, we'll leave that. Okay, I'm gonna dry that. I think we're about to get somewhere here. Hold on, just be patient with me if you will. I'm gonna get some stronger lines in here, and I think something that will go nicely with colors that I have and still make some sort of a statement is this color here. Let's see. Uh, it's also a color I don't normally use very much of. And we'll get a little bit of green in here too. All right. Back to stamping with our circle here. We're almost getting to the point where we're going to have something that'll allow us to wrap up with. Right now it's definitely in that awkward phase. All right. If I'm using the wrong side of this, maybe it's slightly concave. I'm going to switch sides. Yeah, there we go. Okay. I can work with that. Gonna blow dry that real quick. Just a couple of adjustments I make, and I think I'm really close to having something that'll be interesting. And if you joined after the start of the session, this is kind of just building off of some of the accidents that I liked from yesterday's piece. Um, Using a lot of the same process. So I'm just kind of following that same thread. This is yesterday's piece, and having looked at it for a day, I was like, well, I think there's some themes that I could incorporate maybe a little bit differently and come up with something interesting. So that's what we're working towards. Uh, I'm going to blow dry this real quick, and then we got a few more marks to make. All right. That's my little dog snoring, if you heard that. Okay. It's acrylic marker. I really like the brush tips on these markers. The fine tip's okay too, but we will come through with a little bit of white. This is very much like titanium white. We're going to highlight some of these areas. So we have like a warm white, which is used to make those stamps. We'll go ahead and just put some touches of this little bit cooler and more intense white in some of these areas. Almost looks like a coral reef or something crazy like that, but I really don't know what this is. Oops, that might be a little wet still. Okay. Still see some evidence of the paper towel quilted pattern in there. Have some interesting shapes, interesting flow. I think it needs, still see some evidence of the pin lines, which is crazy. Still a little bit of an intense color. I'm going to go with red. Not a lot. Just maybe. maybe one more stamp. Kind of interact with what we have going on. Just want to make sure there's not too much paint. Just kind of see the silhouette of these last few, which is totally fine. Okay, now we're going to blow dry that and put our last few marks in and pull off the tape. Accentuate some of this orange from the watercolor splatters. Okay. Accentuate the green a little bit. Actually, I'm going to pull in a darker green. Come through with the white one more time. And then maybe just a little bit of blue. And then a little bit more of this copper color, and then we'll be done, I think. All right, off with the tape. See what we got. Interesting. So I'll leave this here. Thanks for checking out my live stream. We may miss tomorrow, but we'll get back on the horse as soon as we can. But thanks for checking out the live stream. Stay well.